Good Wednesday morning, and thank you for joining us here on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Jason Hackett. Let's get right to your headlines. Let's take a live look from our nation's capital this morning, where Governor Tim Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison are testifying today about Minnesota's fraud problem in front of a House Oversight Committee. That same committee releasing a report this morning saying after interviewing 9 current and former Minnesota state officials, they accused Governor Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison of knowing about credible fraud concerns as early as 2019. Investigators say state agencies had the legal authority to stop payments to providers suspected of fraud, but continued funding some of them, citing potential lawsuits and concerns about appearing discriminatory. The report also states the Federal Bureau of Investigation never instructed Minnesota officials to continue paying providers under investigation. Investigators point specifically to the high-profile Feeding Our Future case, saying the Minnesota Department of Education voluntarily continued payments despite identifying serious program deficiencies. The entire KARE 11 investigative team has been looking into fraud in Minnesota for years. Those investigations sparked statewide change. You can find all of our recent fraud reporting at kare11.com/fraud. Brand new video in this morning showing the devastation in Iran's capital of Tehran after a fresh wave of Israeli strikes. Israel saying it hit targets across Iran for a 5th straight day. This morning, we're also hearing from the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, about the operation in the Middle East and the 6 soldiers who lost their lives in the fighting of it.
Much was made of the volume of missiles Iran was able to shoot in the first few days. And sadly, as we projected, a few got through and killed 6 of our best, who will hopefully arrive home soon. We will avenge them, no doubt. 4 days in, we have only just begun to fight. America fights to win, and in Operation Epic Fury, we are. May God's providence cover and protect our troops always.
Well, this morning, we know a Minnesotan is one of the 6 soldiers killed in Kuwait since Operation Epic Fury began last weekend. Nicola Moore is from White Bear Lake. The 39-year-old mother of 2 was just days away from coming home, according to her husband. He also said the 2 spoke just a couple of hours before she was killed, adding that she was recently moved off base to a shipping container-style building with no defenses. Joe Bennick with the Minnesotans Military Appreciation Fund says he and others who have long supported the military community are on standby and ready to help the family.
In a tragedy, there will be lots of people who step up to show their support for her family. Keep her family and friends in your thoughts and prayers. In a very tumultuous time, especially in the state of Minnesota, just something as simple as talking to your neighbors, just trying to do what you can to show your support for military, to show support for the state of Minnesota. I think that's the very least we can do.
The Minnesotans Military Appreciation Fund was created in 2005. The nonprofit organization provides cash grants ranging from $500 to $10,000 to Minnesotans who served, those who received a Purple Heart, and to the families of Minnesotans killed in combat. We are following breaking news from overnight. A crash involved a Ramsey County Sheriff's deputy. Right now, we're waiting to hear if any officers were injured. Let's take a look at this new video we got from overnight. You can see airbags deployed on the squad car and the passenger side of the other vehicle cut open. That crash happened on Roberts and 12th Street just before 11:30 last night. We'll update you as soon as we know anything more. In just a few hours, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem will face another round of questions from lawmakers on Operation Metro Surge, this time in front of the House Judiciary Committee. Today's hearing comes a day after a fiery testimony in the Senate. During the hearing, Republican Senator Thom Tillis from North Carolina referring to Noem's leadership as disastrous.
What we've seen is a disaster. Under your leadership, Ms. Noem, a disaster. What we've seen is innocent people getting detained that turn out are American citizens. I could talk about the culture that's been created here with Stephen Miller aiding and abetting. I heard first reports that he was the one that said it was a domestic terrorist situation where 2 people lost their lives in Minneapolis.
Now, during the hearing, Noem also talked about the federal agents still here in Minnesota. She says about 650 are still in the state. New this morning, the first primary results of the 2026 midterms are here after voters headed to the polls in Texas and North Carolina on Tuesday, 2 states that could determine control of the Senate in the fall. NBC's Alice Barr reports from Washington.
Hi there. The 2026 midterms opened with a bang, with hotly contested primary races in Texas in particular, previewing the path to November when Democrats are trying to pick up 4 seats to take control of the Senate. Results are in for the first primaries of this year's high-stakes midterm elections, with Texas-sized implications for control of Congress. 4-term Republican incumbent Senator John Cornyn is now headed to a runoff in May with State Attorney General Ken Paxton, with neither candidate winning a majority of the vote. Cornyn casting Paxton as a liability for a series of scandals, from a 2023 impeachment on bribery charges he was acquitted by the state Senate, to a messy ongoing public divorce.
I refuse to allow a flawed, self-centered, and shameless candidate like Ken Paxton risk everything we've worked so hard to build over these many years.
Paxton, who's built his credentials through aggressively suing for conservative causes, pushing back.
You listened to what John Cornyn was selling, and you weren't buying it. Tonight, change was on the ballot, and change won.
Whoever prevails in that bruising battle will face Democratic State Representative James Tallarico, who NBC News now projects defeated Representative Jasmine Crockett, as Democrats look to make a play for the traditionally red state, pointing to high turnout.
We are not just trying to win an election. We are trying to fundamentally change our politics. And it's working.
Democrats also aiming to gain ground in North Carolina's Senate race, where Republican Thom Tillis is retiring. Former Democratic Governor Roy Cooper now set to square off against former Republican National Committee Chair Michael Whatley. 2 closely watched races that could determine control of the Senate. President Trump's influence looms large in these early races. The only Texas Republican incumbent in the House who did not have the president's endorsement, Dan Crenshaw, lost his race to State Representative Steve Toth, while on the Senate side, Cornyn and Paxton are still battling for the president's public backing. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Well, this morning, the parents of an infant killed in a daycare in Savage are pushing for change to protect other babies.
Our beautiful baby boy, the happiest, smiliest, laughing little light in every room, was murdered.
Harvey Mucklebus died at Rocking Horse Ranch just days before his first birthday. A former employee was charged with murder after confessing to suffocating him and another infant who survived. Mucklebus' parents asked lawmakers to pass Harvey's Law, requiring cameras in infant and toddler rooms at daycares getting state funding.
Had cameras been present, we would have known the terror of what actually happened that day and would have prevented any future attempts on a child's life.
Harvey's Law will get its first committee hearing next week. Also happening today, a new sentence will be handed down in the Feeding Our Future fraud case. Abdul Karim Farah pled guilty last year to 1 count of bribing a juror. He admitted to driving to a juror's home and helping deliver $120,000 in cash in exchange for not guilty verdicts. Farah and prosecutors have already agreed to a recommended sentence between 4 and 5 years in prison. Target is investing $1 billion in its grocery department to add more fresh food and focus on wellness products in an effort to combat declining sales. Even though Target ended its 4th quarter sales with a loss, the retailer is also down 3.9% this past quarter in store sales. University of St. Thomas Associate Marketing Professor Seth Ketron says part of the reason is the economy.
People are being pressured with increasing costs, and prices of things like groceries aren't coming down. The job market is kind of up in the air. People are looking for jobs, and it can take sometimes months, over a year. There's just so much uncertainty, and people generally, when there's uncertainty in the market or uncertainty in their own personal lives, they feel more comfortable saving rather than spending.
The $1 billion investment in food is a part of Target's $5 billion plan to revamp stores across the country. Stick with us. More news and weather coming up after the break.